Yeah, I knew there was a reason
Oh,
why I made
here
the
we go.
draft 9:15.
Okay, let's try that again. So what happened was I was in the middle of talking and then bam, power goes out. Out, everything, internet, power, everything flickered, comes back on. And then I'm like, okay, it'll just take like a second or two. And then as I was restarting my computer, power goes out again. We just had a flash storm come through Orlando, which the hilarious thing was Mike and I earlier was he was like, hey, we're going to have really bad weather up here. I don't know if we're going to have power or anything. And I was like, well, no worries. We'll figure it out as we go. But it's bad when it happens to me. The whole thing shuts down. If it was just Mike, then he would have just froze, and I could have maintained. But it is what it is, right? The power of the Lord Almighty, right?
That's it.
So, welcome everybody back in. What I was saying before I was so rudely interrupted by the power outage was that we've got a couple cool things going on. Homage is back. Cleveland Clothing Co. Sabo Apparel, Schlegel Law Firm, dogwoofs.com. Thrive Fantasy is something that's coming up here in a second. We're going to go big announcement on the pregame show for Thrive Fantasy and the pregame show. By the way, for everybody, the pregame show on Sunday is going to be massive. We have like, I don't know, like 10 different Browns influencer types that are coming on the show, going to be calling in as we go. So we're going to have Reflogs coming on. So Chris McNeil, Dave from Big Play, Cameron Justice, Breezy Clee. Who else do we have going on? Sir Yacht's coming in. Ellis in Orlando. Tajay's coming back. I mean, it's just like everybody's coming. Mike's going to be here. So we're
Mm-hmm.
going to have just throughout, it's going to be a really long 4-hour stream. And we're just going to bring people in as we go. I'm still working on that schedule, but it's going to be a lot of fun. So I'm really, really looking forward to that. And yeah, so it's just like a bunch of cool stuff. And it's almost like the preseason Wednesday show. It's like, we have big technical difficulties to start it off, and then we get right back into it. And then also I will tell you guys that we have purchased the premium PFF subscription, which we have tasked Mike with doing the PFF analysis for the games this season. So Mike is going to be digging in. We're going to be digging into the PFF scores, both of the previous game. We have the ability to look at the whole NFL. So if we want to look at the next team and see like where the matchups are, all those scores are going to be here this season, and a lot of fun, cool giveaways. So it's just going to be an awesome year. I can't wait for this season to start. I can't wait for the first game coming up. Um, Mike? What are your thoughts? What are your honest thoughts about going into Kansas City?
Well, let's start with this. First and foremost, I was talking to my buddy Mike, who's on Twitter,
Okay.
and great guy. And he was just telling me that Tony Gonzalez just said that the Kansas City Chiefs have a top 3 offensive line in the league. Now,
Could be.
I get the Chiefs hype. I do. I do. Kelsey, Mahomes,
Yeah.
Tyreek Hill, um, Hilaire every now and again. I'm still not convinced that he's that elite back. I need to see more from him. But I mean, you look at their offensive line, and sort of one of my keys to the game. I mean, they're starting the whole right side of the offensive line are rookies, and it's not like it was a first round pick. It's like a fourth round pick and a sixth round pick. And I believe that there's a rookie on the other side, or the center is a rookie as well. So you're talking about 3 rookies starting on the right side of their line with Clowney staring down at them. As long as I don't know if you saw, but I think we talked about it a little earlier, but he was under the weather. Um, but Stephanski said no COVID. It was a negative test, so we
Yeah.
should see him back on the practice field tomorrow. But point being, if we don't own that offensive line, that with those rookies starting, especially on the whole right side and the center, essentially,
Mhm.
uh, if we can't dominate them and get pressure on Mahomes all day long, then it's gonna be a long day, and then I would personally be a little bit worried because I mean we should eat this whole game, but I think that's really I think the offense is going to score points. There's no doubt about it. I
Mhm.
mean, another year in the system. Speaking of offensive line and tops in the NFL, you would say that the Browns have the best offensive line in football.
Yep.
Arguably the best rushing attack, I would say. So we're gonna score points. It's just my the matchup that I'm excited for because we're gonna see a lot of it is I want to see what Jeremiah does with Kelsey. That's one of my you know laser focus you know points that I'm gonna be really focused in on.
Yeah, I think that's a good point about the rookie offensive lineman for Kansas City. I knew that they had some new guys there and they were kind of retooling that offensive line. But
Yeah,
the reality is you take Myles Garrett, who if he's not the number one defensive player in the league, he's top three. I mean,
yeah,
you could make an argument for TJ Watt, you could make an argument for Aaron Donald, like you could, there's you can make an argument for a couple defensive backs as well, but when it comes to what Myles Garrett does and what you have to do with a healthy Myles Garrett who can breathe, who's
yeah,
not banged up at all, this is a different type of problem, right? And if you have Clowney on one side or Garrett on the other, you are going to be facing a challenge and the highest challenge that the NFL has to offer. And I don't care who you are as an offensive lineman, unless you are the top guy and or a clear first round talent. It really doesn't even matter. Look at Jedrick Wills last year. Look at
yeah,
what he had a decent season, right? But he wasn't, they weren't comparing him to Joe Thomas. It wasn't like, hey, he stepped in and he's the guy. Like he definitely hasn't hit his ceiling yet. I think he's going to
yeah,
do even better, right? If you really think about what Jedrick did, having shifted from right tackle to left tackle, that was a bit of a learning curve just to get back into that, and then getting used to the game and certain things like that. So, but you're right. We have the best offensive line in the league, which is great. We have I think our defense is significantly better at this point, and nothing really to worry about there. My only concern is the do we have a playoff or deep playoff caliber special teams at this point
yeah,
from a specifically within place kicker? And I think that is a giant question mark. So many points are scored for kicking the ball through the uprights. So many points,
yeah.
right? That it is critical. I mean, the Ravens are what they are in large part because their kicker never misses. And
6 is always 7. You know.
yeah, it is always and nearly automatic from field goal range. It is a problem, right? So that's that being said. But going back to your point about what we should be able to do with them, should we be able to get to Pat Mahomes? I think you're right. I think we should be able to get to him, and we should be able to cover. Now, Travis Kelce and Tyreek Hill. I really don't think Tyreek Hill. I don't know exact. I don't know if there's an answer for Tyreek Hill in the league. I know the Buccaneers did as good as they could. You almost have to neutralize Tyreek Hill by neutralizing Travis Kelce. If you knock out Kelce, then you can also in part knock out Tyreek Hill. But we're going up against Kansas City in their home. A
Loud.
It's going to be loud. It's going to be, there's going to be fans. Pat Mahomes has never lost in the month of September. He's never thrown an interception in the month of September. This is an uphill battle. Andy Reid has never lost to the Browns. So this is going to be, I'm cautiously optimistic. I think the last two seasons with Tennessee and then with Baltimore, I came in with some expectations to those games and was grossly disappointed. I
Oh,
think,
especially the Ravens game. That was, I mean, we were so excited, and then
yeah,
we were. I mean, you even had your your friend, right? The Ravens fan
yeah,
that was on
yeah.
and and he was so, not over the top or overconfident. And then you and I were like, oh, we got a feeling this is going to be the game. And I got to tell you, I still scroll through if I'm looking through a picture and I'm scrolling through to try and find something, I come across three pictures that Laura took that I was like, take a picture of me with the dog bone in my outfit in front of the fireplace because this is going to be I'm gonna be posting this everywhere because this is gonna be our the first game to take us to the to the promised land at the end of the year. And yeah, I laugh at that when I see that, when I see that picture because we got our doors blasted off. I mean, it was just
It
an
was,
embarrassment.
and you know what? I think the other thing that we have to take into consideration is the fact that the last 2 years in a row, we had first year head coaches, new systems that you can't discount that. We came in last year without a preseason, right? We with all our meetings on Zoom, and now we have a whole season. We're going to have the whole roster back. We haven't seen Odell Beckham. We haven't seen Jarvis Landry. We haven't seen Nick Chubb yet the preseason. We haven't seen Myles Garrett or Jadeveon Clowney or Denzel Ward. We haven't seen the the heart and soul of this team yet play, which is great. I think that we are, this is the season that, like, hey, you can keep those guys on the bench and then have that first game still go okay. Versus last year, everybody was ice cold for that first game, and you have
Oh
a,
yeah.
a Ravens team who had been playing together for a decade. You know what, you could almost consider it like how in international play in basketball, where you've
Yeah.
got these teams that the USA should come in and just beat the crap out of them just with any NBA players, but they're playing against teams that have practiced and have refined their skill and their teamwork, and they can just go out there and put it together and be competitive against the best players in the world because we didn't have that ability to gel. I think that was a big piece of why we struggled the last two seasons in the first game, and I don't think that I don't expect to get blown out. I do expect it to be a good game, though, a really really good hard fought game, and I'm not gonna set myself up for disappointment and go, you know what, we're definitely walking out of Kansas City with a win. Um, I think
No,
it's possible, but I'm not like banking on that emotionally.
I I've gone back and forth on it. Again, I mean, I don't think I know. I mean, we're going to score points. There's, there's no and ifs or buts about it. It's what do we look like on defense? We know what it looks like on paper. I mean, and I know Mahomes was out in the second half of that game. But I mean, for all intent and purpose, I mean, we had practice squad guys playing in our secondary during that game. And again, Patrick was
Yeah,
out, and it maybe, obviously if he's in, it's probably not going to be as close as it was. But with that being said, if this talent that we have translates on the field, I mean, you just look at how stout the defensive line is. I mean, I don't know, and barring injuries, knock on wood, I don't know how you block that defensive line, and then you add uh, Malik in there, who has just been shoving grown men out of the way,
yeah.
like it's you or I. I just don't know
I mean,
how
that made it
this
really
defense
easy
doesn't.
us. It made it easy for us to walk away from Sheldon Richardson,
Absolutely.
which
and
is
and
like,
and
wow.
yeah, and I guess, not to be too long-winded, I almost feel like this is going to be a statement game And I don't, I'm not going to say we're going to win by 2 touchdowns. I'm not going to say we're going to win by 10 points. It might be 3 points, but I just I feel like they go in and the defense is as advertised, and now all of a sudden, people are talking. Those, the national guys that are picking us to get to the AFC championship game rather, or to the Super Bowl. Now they're not looking as silly as they believe that they are watching these shows and listening to these podcasts. So that's my take. And I know we always wait till the end, but I just I have a feeling that this is their you know their statement game.
It could very well be. I think with all due respect to the Kansas City Chiefs, they are the best team in the AFC, and until somebody can dethrone them from that, they have that respect. And if some things would have gone a little bit different last year for the Super Bowl, let's look at what the Super Bowl was last year. They had basically every card stacked against them. Okay, Pat Mahomes was shell shock, in the game versus us. I mean, he was knocked out of that game, and you know, uh, concussion protocol be what it may, he played against Buffalo, and then he played in the Super Bowl, and who knows how his head was during any of that. Plus, he had the toe injury. Right, Pat Mahomes was nowhere near 100% in that game. Right, then you have the issues that they had in the offensive line at that time. Then you have the Andy Reid's son getting into the DWI or DUI situation right before the game. Knocking that the headspace off of Andy Reid. That all of those were contributing factors. And then, oh, by the way, you're playing against Tom Brady, a very good defense. You're playing against guys like Gronkowski, Antonio Brown, Mike Evans, run very respectable running back situation, and you're doing it in their home field.
Yeah.
So Kansas City went into that game almost with unsurmountable challenges ahead of them. So if you put that game on a neutral field and you put that game where healthy Buccaneers versus healthy Kansas City Chiefs, I still think the Chiefs win that game. I think the Chiefs are that good. I think Pat Mahomes, and I've said it before, I will say it again. I think Pat Mahomes will go down as the greatest quarterback of all time when it's all said and done. He's not a like he didn't come in like Tom Brady for the first 10 years and win Super Bowls with a defense. Like he is not a system guy that
Well,
evolved into a great quarterback. He is a great quarterback like from the first snap he made as a pro. Pat Mahomes is that good.
but what's funny is you sort of led me into my next point, which was, if you look at the Chiefs defense, they were 21st in the league last year. 21st. And then you look, no Frank Clark. We don't know if Teron Matthew is going to play. So now you're looking even worse than a 21st ranked defense. And I know it's a new year, etc. But I mean, they had the 5th ranked offense. So it if you can find a guy that can shut down Travis Kelsey, and the kid from Tampa Bay last year essentially shut him down, and that was the end. And point being, and you alluded to it earlier, that you're not too worried about Tyreek Hill if you get Kelsey under control, because you could roll help over there and you don't
Yep.
have to worry about it. So I really believe that when the Browns knew that they needed corner help, especially with Greedy's injury history,
Mm-hmm.
and Newsom was sitting there, and they snagged him. And obviously, the kid, he had a great camp, and he won the job. But I really believe when they traded up in that second round because they saw their Levante David sitting there, knowing that Jock could be that guy to handle a Travis Kelsey, they ran to the podium. So I
They did. They
really
traded. They
believe,
traded up to get to him.
yeah, and and they, I mean, he's a first round talent. I mean, there were the rumors that he dropped because of something, he had a heart thing or
Mhm.
whatever, and that turned out just to be, one of those false kind of tests that happens at the combine, and then, you know, the other teams are left scratching their head, and there's that one team that took the chance, and lo and behold, finally, that's us.
Well, I remember the draft. I'm sitting there with my dad the first day of the draft, and we watched the whole thing. And we're getting towards the end, towards our pick, and we're like, the kid from Notre Dame's there. He's there. Let's get him now. Like, let's go. And we got Greg Newsome, and I was like, well, Greg Newsome fits probably our biggest, most critical need. And he's not a slouch player. He's not like somebody who we're really stretching for either. He kind of fit right where he came in. Would it have nice to been had to get Horn or Asante Samuel or Patrick Surtain? Sure, but the reality was, I think for where Greg Newsome was available was the best possible spot, and it wasn't a risky pick by any means,
Right.
right? And it filled the biggest need. Then you have, and I said to my dad and I were sitting there, and we're like, man, uh, I really wish we could have got the kid. We could have figured out a way to get the kid from Notre Dame. And I was texting with Quincy Carrier, and I was like, "Are we going to get the kid from Notre Dame?" And we're going back and forth, boom, 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 boom. And then the next day, when the second round came around, I was driving because we didn't go live that day because we had so many problems with the stream, getting taken down for actually showing the NFL draft on YouTube.
Yeah.
We will not be making any of those mistakes anymore now that we're an officially like in partner channel. Before I didn't care. I'm like, I'm not part. What are you going to do to me? You're not going to do anything. So,
And
but
I
now, and then and I was on the phone with my dad. I was like, I was driving home, and I was like, we're a couple picks away. I was on the phone with my dad, and I was like, okay, cool. I'll be home by the time we pick. And boom, like not even 2 minutes later, I got a call back from him. We moved up, and the pick is coming, and we just
was
knew.
probably yelling at you through text at that point.
I'm sure we were. I mean, if I go back, I mean, it was like I think everything blew up at that moment, and we're like, we just pulled off a monster draft. Because and then the way that JOK came in for that first game and just lit it up, we're like, yes, he's NFL talent. We were correct about that, and now we're at like upside now. It's like upside with him. Like how good can he be?
Yeah. And just for I know our lone chief fan in the chat there was talking about Kelsey going 10 for 133, but if I remember correctly, um, I think after like three quarters, he had like six catches for like 69 yards or 70 yards. So I mean, the majority of the rest of his yards, I mean, they already shut him down at that point, and it was just, you know, the rest of it was just underneath garbage stuff later on. So it's not like, he lit them up for 10 catches, 133 yards, and three touchdowns. I mean, they held him in check the whole game. So,
Yeah,
but I mean, it's obviously that's still an impressive stat line. However, the confetti came down for the Bucks. But if you let me, hey, if Jock and company could hold Kelsey to 70 yards and no touchdowns after three quarters, sign me up.
yeah.
6 days to Sunday.
It gives us a chance to win. I mean, in order to beat the Chiefs, you have to beat Kelsey, and you have to keep Kelsey in check. Number one, he's the weapon. He's
Yeah,
the X factor that there isn't really a perfect way to answer that.
yep,
Right? The Buccaneers did the best job they possibly could with a shaken up offensive line and a less than 100% Pat Mahomes. Right? So
yeah,
let's call it what it is. Like they didn't. I still stand by this. They didn't have anywhere close to like the best, looking Chiefs in the Super Bowl. And then you got Tyreek Hill because he can take the top off of you at any moment. And then you got Hilaire who who's no slouch of a running back. And then you've got the most dangerous weapon in the NFL, hands down, without any doubt, in Pat Mahomes.
Yep.
So the reality is, it's the offense that I'm afraid of. As you mentioned on defense, this isn't a world class, like Ray Lewis led Baltimore Ravens defense that's going to
Yeah.
hold teams to 3 points. Like, we're going to score against them, and they're probably going to score against us. And
Yeah.
it could come down to who makes the extra point, who makes the
Very well could.
who makes the 48-yard field goal. It could come down to that. And in that type of situation, again, advantage goes Chiefs.
Yeah.
So there's a reason why we're not going to be favored in this game, right? We're going to
I
come
think
back.
what is the line? 6 now? Is it 6 or 7?
To be honest, I haven't looked at it recently.
Yeah, I thought
Um,
it was 6 or 7. I haven't looked at it in a couple days.
but I think in all reality, for every other game this season, other than maybe Baltimore in Baltimore, we're going to be favored, which
Yeah.
is which is
New.
here's how I look at it. Okay, here's how I look at this season. Even if we start off, as long as we don't get the doors knocked out like off of us again, like we did last year, it's not bad. It's not bad to see the best competition the first week, because then you're now playing up to that level because you know what the best can give you. The Bears aren't going to give us that same look as the Kansas City Chiefs in Kansas City. It just isn't
Yeah.
going to be the same situation. So, not that the Bears are a slouch team either, but it's just different. The Kansas City Chiefs are in a class. They're in a class by themselves, and this is why the whole national media, if you look at the power rankings and everything like that, even though the Tampa Bay Buccaneers are coming back with essentially the same damn squad, they are not being given the respect as like the number one team. It is still the Kansas City Chiefs until they get knocked off. We shall see what happens.
Yeah. And
Right.
I go back to, I mean, if you look at the stats last year, I believe it was like the last 8 games, and don't anybody twist my words that I'm saying that Baker is better than Mahomes. I'm not comparing you know the talent. But what I am saying is that if you go back and you look at the last 8 games of just quarterback play, Baker actually had better stats than he did, and I attribute that to being more comfortable in the offense, trusting his eyes more. I mean, you and I, we at the beginning of the year, we were ready to throw up the white flag, and
Yeah.
and but
It was
but the
touch and
light
go
bulb
there.
went off. Yeah, the light bulb went off, and he started getting through his progressions better, and he had a better handle of the offense, and so now you look, we're not going to go with the whole lazy take that, oh, if Baker can do this or if Baker can do that, the kid can play. I mean, there's no doubt about that. I mean, he can spread the rock around, and he's accurate, and he's mobile if he has to be. So you take the best offensive line in football, and then you put another year now under Jed's belt, protecting his blind side, and we know what we've got in the run game. So I mean, that's why I chuckle at some of these national guys with some of the stuff that they say. I mean, there is no way that this offense is not going to produce. Now, I still believe it's going to come down, and this is all season long. I believe. I believe it's going to come down to, again, is it just on paper, or is this defense for real? And if this defense is for real, we're going to score plenty of points, and we're going to run the ball for plenty of yards, and we are going to win a lot of games. But man, if that defense is as advertised, I think sky's the limit. I got to be honest with, barring God forbid an injury.
Yeah.
Again, knock on wood.
Yeah.
But
No, I think you're absolutely right. I think we proved to the world that our offense is one of the top offenses in the league, with or without, you know, Odell Beckham as well. With or without him, we were still, scoring tons of points. And I think that's the one thing that the national media and everybody doesn't seem to quite grasp, is how good Nick Chubb is.
Yeah.
and how much of a flip and how difficult it is to go from a full speed 100% Nick Chubb for a couple series and then put in Kareem Hunt right behind it and really not really miss a beat at all.
Yeah.
That is
Absolutely.
insanely dangerous. And then you've got Baker Mayfield coming into it. And you kind of touched on this here, where he came into his element a little bit later on in the season. And I attribute that to getting comfortable in the system and getting comfortable with the play calling. When you can rely on your actual God-given talent as a quarterback, and you can read the defense. You don't have to think about, okay, where's this guy going to be? Is everybody in position correctly? And all just comes naturally because you're used to it. That's when the true signs of, is this quarterback good or not? When they're comfortable in the system, and I think Baker more than capable, prove that to everybody that he can absolutely do it. So I expect we're going to see a better Baker Mayfield early this season. And if we get that same guy, by the way, who's playing for a contract too, so he's got all the incentive in the world to light it up because as of this point, we haven't extended him yet. So the better he does, the more money it's going to cost us, which is a crazy dice roll, but it is what it is.
Hey,
And
and because I know you love this stuff. Not to interrupt you,
Mhm,
but I'm staring at it. If PFF was the be all end all,
mhm.
Baker Mayfield was the eighth ranked quarterback in the NFL last year.
I mean, and so let's try to think about it. If we're D Podesta, if we're Andrew Barry, right? If we're them and we go, okay, so you've got Baker Mayfield um, who has shown us a lot and shown a big leap back forward. To you take away his sophomore season, you stick with the rookie season, and you stick with the junior season, right? And you go, is this guy who do we want him to have one more prove it year before he's extended and given the money? What's the worst thing that can happen? Okay, because next season, you better believe there's going to be guys like Aaron Rodgers, uh, Deshaun Watson, whatever happens with his legal issues. There's going to be options out there that, could use, not to say that I don't think Baker's going to stink it up. I think he is our guy. And just for
Yeah.
everybody, just so everybody's clear, I do want him. I have Baker Mayfield jerseys and everything. I'm invested into Baker Mayfield in a big way. Okay. I'm not saying I want this to happen. I'm just talking hypothetical. Are we a team that is good enough on paper that if Aaron Rodgers decided to pull that same Tom Brady and say, I just want one or two more shots at like a legitimate one or two more shots at the ring, and I want to play with a very elite defense, a very intelligent coach, and I think I can do that. Who knows? So there's going to be options for us, and there's going to be options for Baker. This isn't the end all be all right now, but I don't want to even think about that scenario. I just want Baker to play very, very well. He's 26 years old, right? You look at how long NFL quarterbacks are playing. He's in good shape. 26-year-old in good shape. He has never been drastically injured.
Clearly squatting from the up close picture
Oh,
you sent in Twitter earlier.
it's his legs look giant.
They do though.
And I don't know. Do you need that much weight on your lower body, like as a quarter? I don't know.
I don't know.
But
Maybe
he's putting a
he'll
lot. He's putting a lot of weight down there.
just shedding people all over the place.
Yeah, hip checking. Like in hockey, right? But but yeah. So I think Baker's gonna be just fine. But I think time will tell here. But I think we're gonna be in plenty good shape. Um, in terms of, and then let's look ahead a little bit. Okay, let's go Browns. Sketch. I should have this memorized. I will at some point. Then we get the Texans week 2 at home with Tyrod Taylor coming back to Cleveland. The last time he was in Cleveland, where he played a game starting, he was not carted off, but he didn't make it, and that was the beginning of the Baker Mayfield era for the Browns. So he comes back, and I think we are clearly the better team. It's almost like it was last year, where we had the first game where it was just like we got gut punched by by Baltimore,
Did
and we
we?
came right
Oof.
back and turned it back on. And at one point, we were 4-1, right, to that
Yeah.
Steelers game. We're 4-1, and I think that's what we can run off a couple of them, you know. But some of the teams that scare me, the Vikings scare me in Minnesota. The Cardinals scare me because you have the X factor with Kyler Murray. Um, God, the Chargers scare me a little bit. I mean, this is not the NFC East of last year's schedule. So I think especially if we play really well, and man, if we pull out a victory against Kansas City, we're gonna have the target on our back. But we are gonna have to go and get into some knife fights with some of these teams to pull out some victories. And we're gonna need every ounce of that talent that we're putting on the field. The good news is we have a lot of talent. The only true 100% question mark hole that I see on this team is special teams. And, I think Mike Prefer is a good enough special teams coach that can hopefully get his guys mentally and physically prepared to produce for us. That's what I'm praying for, because everywhere else, offense is insane. Defense is on paper, right? And this isn't wishful thinking. This is literally on paper. There's not a glaring hole on defense. Is there something like, if you had to point out one thing, what would you say it would be? Like
On the defensive
linebacker
side of the
play?
ball, yeah, I would definitely go to the linebackers. But what? And only time will tell. But if Jock is what we think he is,
Mm-hmm.
and I mean he showed, you know, a ton of flash in the preseason. I know, it's, they were going against, second, third teamers, but he is the kind of player that could make you forget about your linebacker woes extremely quick. So if he turns out to be half the player we think he is,
Yeah.
with Walker there in the middle,
Mm-hmm.
I think you're okay. I really, the only thing I see, how does, I mean, Denzel's going to be Denzel. Um, how how's Newsom going to look? I think this first game is going to be telling, because I'm sure, uh, you know, they're gonna shade Hill over to his side, as much as they can. And yeah, I mean, that's really, I mean, we upgraded the safety position. I mean, Ronnie Harrison was really good player for us last year. I mean, and then you go back to that defensive line, and we had no idea what we were getting with McDowell. I mean, he was, again, he was, you know throwing guys around like a rag doll. So I mean, and to your point with the schedule, I'm gonna go a little crazy,
Okay.
and I almost feel, and I'm sure this is gonna get laughed at, but if we come home with a W from Kansas City, we're 2-0 against the Texans. We're 3-0 against the Bears. We're 4-0 against the Vikings. The Chargers scare me a little. We get past the Chargers. I think for
In LA.
me, yeah, for me, the two games on the schedule that I don't want to say scare me,
Mm-hmm.
but I could look at it and go, man, this could be, if Herbert or Hebert, however you say his name. I know people say it 9,000 different ways, but how he plays and how Murray plays, I think, they could sneak up and surprise you and smack you in the mouth, and now you're licking your wounds and trying to figure out what happened. But
Mm-hmm.
if they can get past the Chargers and the Cardinals, I mean, I don't see them losing again. Maybe, maybe in Baltimore on Sunday
Well,
night.
they're
So I mean, I,
like,
I
are
could
you
see
saying at
them.
all, or are you saying just like early season?
No, I literally could see them go on a run where I mean, if you go back to, I mean, you look at the Cardinals, no defense. Chargers defense, it's pretty solid, but I got a bug flying around here. I don't even know how that happened, but the Chargers defense, I mean, they're good sometimes. Sometimes they're not. You don't know what you're getting.
Mm-hmm.
Um, their offense is pretty solid, but I don't know. There's something about, if you look at schedule. I mean, they're not losing to the Texans.
No.
They're not losing to Andy Dalton and the Bears. Minnesota does scare me, even though it's on the road. I'm curious, and you tell me what you think, and I'm wondering what the chat thinks. But I wonder if, do you go to Minnesota and then go home, or do you stay out there maybe and find somewhere to stay so you don't have to go back from Minnesota and then always back to the West Coast?
Oh yeah, they're coming. They're coming back. I mean, they're not going to stay in Minnesota. It's not Minnesota is if it was like the Raiders,
Yeah, I guess
you know,
Minnesota's not that far.
it's not that
Yeah,
far, and it's so far north. Here's what I would say, and
going west that'd be the game. Going west.
I think, I mean, I'm with you. I think we match up talent wise really well versus everybody in the schedule. So there's nobody that I think is like we got no shot against them. Whereas in years past, the Baltimore, the Steelers, we almost had no business even being on the field with them for a couple seasons, and and they laughed at us, and it was a joke for a long time. But if you look at, for going through the schedule, you got the Chiefs, which is going to be the biggest challenge, really, day one. Then you're right, we're going to beat the Texans, and we should beat the Bears. I think the only thing with the Bears, if Justin Fields is ready for that game, he is an X factor type quarterback, but his first game playing away in Cleveland, you know, against our defense, I think that I still Andy Dalton or Justin Fields is not really a great answer. Justin Fields at the end of the season, I'd feel less confident about. Um, the Vikings are like this weird team because I don't think they're good. I don't, but
No, yeah, they don't frighten me in the least bit.
I think that there are teams on the schedule that could just sneak up and bite us. Okay. And just by accident win. And that could be, and that this is where it comes down to the field goal kicker. Now, the Vikings game is going to be inside in a dome, so that shouldn't be as big of a factor. But the reality is, I think there's one or two games on the schedule that are like risky games. And I'm going to call out the Vikings as number one. And I could get in trouble for this.
Oh boy,
Excuse me. I could just hear me out on this.
I know where you're going. I think, and I can't accept it.
Okay. I'm just telling you. I think the Bengals are going to be better
I
than
knew it.
people give them credit for. Right? They are, with Joe Burrow coming back and being healthy. They aren't as bad as people, like they aren't the Jeff Driscoll Bengals. They are a much better team if Joe Burrow stays healthy. Their third tier players beat the Steelers last year. Okay, let's think about that for a second. They are not as bad as what we think, and we always take them for granted when we play in Cincinnati. At home, I have no doubt we're going to win. But the Bengals are one of those teams that I think can just jump up and just play their mind out. We have stupid penalties, we miss some field goals, and we end up losing the game. Like 23-6, and just like, what? How did that happen? I'm hoping it doesn't happen, but it could. I think the other game that scares me on this schedule, more than any other game this season, is December 25th in Lambeau.
I would agree. I would agree with that. I would agree with that.
Because
But
they're
to
playing.
your point,
They got stuff to play for too. You know.
yeah. But with the Bengals, I mean, I think they had like the 27th ranked defense last year, and the Vikings the 23rd or 24th. and they really didn't have any additions, either of those two on the defensive side of the ball. But again, I mean, any given Sunday. So I mean, you could have a letdown game, and it's like you stayed out at the club all night, like what was that, Friday Night Lights or whatever it was,
Yeah.
and you just it just doesn't work out. But I just don't see it. But I agree with you on the I mean, Green Bay on Christmas in Green Bay. That's going to be it's going to be it'll be a I think it's going to be a good game. I'm interested. I'm excited for the Wednesday show prior. So, and I'm going to write this down so we can look at where we are record wise, and to see, if maybe, the Bengals did say what you're gonna, what you said they would do, or the Chargers, hand it to us out west, or what have you. But it'll be interesting to see where where we're at.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, speaking of where we're at, Mike, remind me again what we have as everybody know, we have a fantasy football league draft tonight that we also
That
have
we
to be
do.
ready for. What time is the draft at?
The draft is at 9:15.
Okay, so I'm playing in like 4 leagues this year.
Oh boy.
It's I do this every year and I shouldn't do it. So you're
No,
saying
no,
not
no, you shouldn't.
nine, so 9:15 you said is when we kick off.
Yep.
And okay, so I do want to I do want to wrap up just a little bit early today because I have to get ready for that, and I gotta
Mike's got to break out those cheat sheets.
I gotta do something, right? I have one team that I auto drafted. I have never done that before in my entire life, and I accidentally auto drafted a league. It's my work
Oh
league. It's
no.
my work league. It's still paid, but it's a work league.
Was that a money league?
Oh yeah, yeah. There's no
Oh my
non-money
god,
leagues.
I
If
wouldn't be able to sleep at night.
it,
Was the team
it's
really
not a bad
bad?
team. No, it's not a bad team at all.
All
It
right.
worked out fine.
You know what?
Um,
Last night's draft, there was a guy on auto draft, and his draft was solid. I couldn't even believe it. And I got to tell you, Mike,
yeah.
I said this last night in the chat. If I open that draft and I'm the number one pick, I'm out. I'm folding. Out.
It's Yahoo,
That
right? Is it Yahoo?
Yep, it is. That
Yeah,
was the
'cause-
worst. I have not drafted first in a league in
so
years.
you took McCaffrey
I took McCaffrey, but then by the time
and
it
snake back to you.
came back,
Yeah.
and then I didn't realize it was a 3 receiver league, and it brought memories back of the last time I was the number one pick, because I mean it was like
Your
Newton's
third
law.
receiver is like Brashard Perriman. He's like a free agent. He's not on a team yet. He's like,
I
but
mean,
I think he's gonna get picked up.
my second receiver was Chenault from Jacksonville, and I think the kid will do well. But I mean, it was every time I had a guy in the queue, 2 picks before, gone. 1 pick before, gone. It was like I was a day late and $1 short the whole draft, and I hate
It's the
my
worst
team.
feeling. It's the worst feeling when that happens.
Yeah,
There is a little bit of peace with an auto drafted team because you can look at it and be like, well, I didn't draft it. If it does well, great. But if I didn't, then I did. I'm not a proponent of it. I like to draft. I like to make the decision. But I think oftentimes my problem with fantasy is I live too much in the past. And I'm
yeah.
like, oh, well, I got this guy and he'll be, Antonio Brown. He's going to be the Antonio Brown for 2016. And, it's like that's what I end up doing to myself. But I do want to, I want to apologize for the little technical difficulty, the power outage. So if anybody was missing the first part of the show, you can catch like the first 3 minutes that we were doing before.
And the
And
Thunderstruck, it was good.
that was Thunderstruck. Maybe it was the new theme song. It was just like it was
That's
too
it.
much metal,
It
too
was.
much.
I bet you that's exactly what happened. There was no storm. That metal hit so hard
Boom.
that it knocked your whole system out of whack.
It might have. It very well might have. Which maybe next week we do like, some maybe we do
Like a folk song.
like a light country rendition of the Wednesday show theme song.
It's the Wednesday show.
The Wednesday show. We could do like a Barry Manilow version of it,
I'll
one
come in
time.
with like the Captain Steuben hat on.
Yeah, like the Love Boat, the Wednesday. Um, so yeah, guys, thanks for hanging in with us. Appreciate it. Huge pre-game stream on Sunday.
Don't miss it, guys.
12 to 4. We're gonna be streaming all damn day. The only time we're not gonna be streaming is the very morning and the game, and then we're coming back for the post game. And I was telling my dad, I was like, we our numbers, our numbers are so big for the pre-game that I really feel dumb that we named the channel Brownie Post Game. We should have named it Brownie Pre-Game because it is freaking huge, the numbers in pre-game. So I'm looking for. I cannot wait to just go through it and to talk to all those people, and some people who have never been on the channel before are going to come on, be able to talk to them, get their thoughts on the game, break it all down, and then we'll be back for the Wednesday show. When are you making your first trip to Cleveland? Is it
You
the
said,
Texans?
yeah, very, very, very excited. I would be lying to you if I didn't tell you. There's a little bit of trepidation with you know traveling by air, and then
Mm-hmm.
stadium's going to be full capacity, and the you know the old Delta variant's running wild, but we'll be safe, and you got to live, right?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, take your vitamins, do your thing. Stay safe, get some sleep,
Let me tell you
be
something, brother.
careful, be careful out there. We gotta we don't have to put you back on the bench because you're
No,
dealing with any type of mystery disease.
that's
But
it. I'm back.
well, thank you again, Mike, for joining. We got our fantasy draft coming up. How I'm sure we'll be chatting during that as well. Guys, everybody here who's in chat, appreciate it. We're gonna have a bunch of giveaways on Sunday, so make sure you hit that button. Hit the like button on this one. If you're not subscribed, subscribe to the channel. We'd love to have you. A couple of shout outs: AW, 17 Squabble Lane, Dennis Schultz, Keith C's still here. Beast Grills is still in the house. CH is here. So everybody, thank you very much for being with us tonight. And we will see you back on the no, I'm sorry, the pregame on Sunday. Final thoughts, Mike?
Yeah, I'm fired up. I'm excited. It's feels like it took forever to get here, and tomorrow's Thursday. I'm sure Thursday through Sunday morning is going to take a
It's gonna
while,
be
and
wild.
then I mean we've got. I forgot that it was a 425 game, so I mean
Yeah.
it is going to be one of those exciting lead ups to an excellent game. Again, I got a good feeling, but I could honestly say my final thought is is the fact that I do not believe that you'll get a stinker. You are going to have a great game, and it's going to be a great measuring stick. Whether you know we're we're going home 1-0, or we're going home 0-1 after a really great game, and if we come back 0-1, we're going to see him down the road. So
Yeah.
I'm excited, looking forward to the pregame show, the game, the postgame show. I'm raring to go, and thanks everybody for joining us tonight, and we love you guys, and we'll see you soon.
Yep. We'll see you soon. Well said. I agree with you 100%. And everybody, we will see you on Sunday. Go Browns.
Go Brownies.